I'm 11 years old, and I walk to my third period social studies class, and as I'm about to walk in the door, I hear my teacher, Mr. Olsenday, say, "This week we're studying ancient Greek, and just like in ancient Greek times, girls are only allowed into the classroom if they are invited and escorted by a boy." I cannot believe this. "But Mr. Olsenday, that's so unfair." I watch for a few minutes as girls, some delightedly, some begrudgingly, link arms with the boys and file into the classroom. And I decide, I'm not going in. And nobody seems to notice. And I realize that my protest isn't really going to mean much alone. So the next day, I stand outside social studies class again, I strike my very first power pose, and I manage to convince a couple of other girls to hang back with me and skip class for the week. And one of them has the incredible idea to actually rehearse a Greek play called Lysistrata, which we soon all come to learn is about Greek women who go on a sex strike until their husbands agree to end the war. But our group of teenage theater goers, we rehearse all week long, and now that there's a group of us, Mr. Olsenday can't ignore us. So at the end of the week, we're allowed back into the classroom on our own terms to perform the play. And while I'd like to think that I've matured in many ways since then, the root of my thespian disobedience is the same drive that led me to become an entrepreneur 15 years later. When faced with an unjust system, my instinct is to gather people together so that we can create an alternative. And this passion eventually became a career. I became a community organizer in Washington, D.C., where I learned about the power of storytelling as a tool to build individual confidence in order to create community action. And as I grew as an organizer, I was surprised to find that this model for change is primarily used in the United States. I was still really passionate about women's issues, and I started looking for opportunities to use community organizing with women internationally. And Rwanda presented a really unique opportunity. In Rwanda, more than 60% of their parliament is female, and yet, at a local level, women are still underrepresented in leadership roles. And I wanted to use community organizing to bridge that gap between opportunity and action. So in 2013, I moved to Rwanda to found an organization called Resonate. And at Resonate, we partner with groups providing skill building and education, and we integrate leadership training into what they do. And we use a model rooted in organizing called storytelling for leadership that helps to unlock the leadership potential of women and girls at all levels across East Africa. And that's women like Annunziata, who was skilled and smart, a single mother, but she struggled to provide for her family. She told us before our workshop she didn't think she had anything to be proud of. She went through our 3-day course, and through it she learned to reframe how she thought about herself. She began to think about her decision to leave her husband as one of courage rather than of shame. She opened up to her friends and her family, and she had the confidence to open a small supermarket. She's now providing easily for her family, and she's an inspiration in her community. Women like Annunziata show us what's possible if we put our trust in her and then allow her to author the story of change that's best for her and her community. We've worked with 5,000 women and girls like Annunziata, and the results have been really incredible. 38% of them start businesses like she does, and another 45% are taking on some sort of local leadership role. And we use the tools from community organizing that are the basis of the leadership and the storytelling tools that we use. But the community organizing values are also at the heart of our work. We don't work with women and tell them what they need and try to give it to them. Instead, we support women to have the tools that they need to create the changes that they want to see in their lives and their communities. And you know, it's sometimes hard to do because as founders, we sometimes feel like we're supposed to have all of the answers. But especially as someone who started an organization in a community in a country that's not my own, it's really important that I hold that value. And yet, my job is to create a vision so compelling that others will rally behind it. And it can be really easy to get caught up in that. And it's true what they say, that when you found something and you build it, it kind of becomes your baby. And so for the last 5 years, I have poured my whole self into this work. And we've had some incredible successes. But as we've grown, we've also come across some new barriers to impact. And one of those is that our organization, one that exists to support the leadership of East African women, is led by a white woman from California. So next year, I'm stepping out of my role as CEO of the organization and handing leadership over to an incredible East African woman. I learned early on as an organizer that those who are best at their work are the ones who work themselves out of a job. And we talk about that a lot, especially those of us who work in international development. But it's time to do more than talk about it. We have to make a plan, and we have to make it happen. And as entrepreneurs, that's what we're lauded for, right? Being able to dream something up and then build it. But especially for founders who aren't from the communities that we're working in, we have an opportunity and an obligation to redefine success. What if instead of building our own visions, success meant building organizations so impactful that they surpassed our visions of what the world could look like, and instead uplift the visions of the communities that we aim to serve? If real leadership is about working ourselves out of a job, then perhaps our biggest challenges as leaders is knowing when to get out of the way. Thank you.